Hey everyone, we are back. Another day, another dollar, another problem with the white collar. Starbucks is back in the spotlight, paying $35 million to NYC workers over unstable schedules, while baristas nationwide are still striking for fair hours and staffing. And even with CEO Brian Niccol promising a big turnaround, investors have said that it's taking too long, and workers say nothing's changed. So today we're taking a quick look at what's going on and why Starbucks can't seem to get it together. Title: Starbucks to pay $35 million to New York City workers in settlement as ongoing strike draws Mamdani and Sanders to picket line. Starbucks is paying more than 15,000 New York workers to settle claims that it was not allowing them to have stable schedules and that they'd randomly cut their working hours. Zohran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders showed up to a strike a few days ago to show their support for workers who have been on strike now since November 13th. They've been striking for better hours and more staffing.
Like so many working people across this city, these are not demands of greed. These are demands for decency. These are workers who are simply being asked to be treated with the respect that they deserve. They're being asked that their labor be repaid in a manner that allows them to build a dignified life.
While the CEOs make unbelievable salaries, 60% of our people in Vermont, in New York City, all over this country are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay the rent, struggling to pay for health care, struggling to put food on the table.
Workers have said that Starbucks doesn't want to negotiate a fair contract, claiming that Starbucks hasn't agreed on a new contract for nearly 4 years since workers first voted to unionize. If you think that this strike sounds pretty familiar, you're not imagining things, as there were similar strikes last year for very similar reasons. This story from NPR on December 20th, 2024. Quote, Starbucks Workers United workers first unionized in 2021 and now represent more than 10,000 employees. They're asking for a minimum wage of $20, annual raises of 5%, a fair scheduling process, better health care, and enhanced paid leave protocols, end quote. There were also strikes earlier this year about the new dress code. This story from AP News from May 15th, 2025. More than 2,000 Starbucks baristas went on strike to protest a new dress code. Basically, the new dress code limited the options that they could wear to work. Before the most recent strikes began, the CEO Brian Niccol sat with CBS to talk about his plans to turn around the struggling franchise, talking about how returning to the Starbucks of old would be a top priority, a place that you could hang out at, a place with great customer service.
Starbucks says new offerings like protein-infused drinks, beverages in old-school mugs, and redesigned stores like this one in Seattle with more comfortable couches are helping.
You've changed the furniture, but do you really think that changing the furniture will continue to bring people back in?
Without a doubt. I mean, it's much more than just the furniture, right? It's the whole vibe.
What's your plan to compete, and do you introduce a value menu at some point?
Yeah, no, look, first of all, at Starbucks, we love competing. We have a huge point of difference, and that is the experience you get in our stores. You're going to want to linger in a Starbucks. You can get the customization at Starbucks that you can't get anywhere else. The experience sets us apart from everybody else.
Workers want better pay. They want better conditions. What are you prepared to give them?
Well, we already give them the best job in retail. We have the lowest turnover in the industry. We also have the best benefits in the industry, and we actually have the best wages in the industry.
They contend that reaching a union contract would cost Starbucks less than an average day of sales.
You know, look, all I can tell you is what their requests to date has been unreasonable. We're willing to, negotiate and have them come back to the table and find a solution.
As we saw in a video I posted a few days ago, it's fairly common for C-suite executives to get their messaging across in fairly poor ways. In Brian Niccol's case, he doesn't actually have to say much for the public to complain about him. Again, this is the CEO who said that workers that were picketing in the past for more staffing, for better hours, had unreasonable demands. He'd like to commute 3 times a week from Newport Beach, California, 1,000 kilometers away to Seattle, Washington. But $20 an hour is unreasonable. You also need only look at how much this guy is making per year as CEO of Starbucks. Now, for that amount of money, you would think they might be doing better. This story is from earlier this year. Now, it takes time to turn a big franchise like Starbucks around, but even investors think that it's been taking a little too long. Maybe it might be a bad idea to invest that much money into basically one person. Maybe they could use that investment on more staff, better pay, healthcare. After all, this apparently is the best job in retail, according to the CEO. Personally, I'm not a coffee fan or a Starbucks fan, and I think commuting from California to Washington is probably not a good business decision. But what do you think? Is Mr. CEO Brian Niccol too out of touch to really understand what people want, what his workers want? Do you want to yourself linger at Starbucks? Is this transformation that he's proposing actually sufficient to get people buying their coffee again in this economy? We will see.